Greetings everyone, we have here a new video and this time we're gonna talk about Elder and Shaper influence and how that affect the maps and affect the drop rates and stuff like that. So first off, it was a request by a viewer, so I thought like I'm gonna make cells my example here because I know some streamers like Cute Dog and stuff like that are using cells, and I actually don't know if he's using the ping pong eldershaper ping pong effect on it, but if he does, he should actually, because it should be pretty easy to set up. And as you can see on my atlas here, it's completely clear. I You can clear it actually by running every map which has elder influence. These things here that you see here are a little bit dots everywhere. Those are shaper influence. We want the elder one to spawn. I'm gonna go through real easy how to spawn it in step by step like I did with my other guide, and hopefully everyone can follow. Also, I want to touch on one more thing before I do the step by step guide. It is why you should do this. Well, first off, if you're doing T16s with an Elder Orb, which you can get if you kill a Uber Elder, then it's really important that you maximize each map, because each map is going to be a certain value. It's going to be like, I don't know, in the beginning of the league, probably 20 chaos for each map. So why not put in a little bit extra into every map? And Elder and Shaper influence is completely free. You don't actually need to put any currency into it. But you should still sextant things, you should still chisel every map, you should still alk it and maybe valid even, and do whatever else you want. But Elder and Shaper influence, what it does is it puts extra mobs on the map. Every extra mob has a chance to actually drop maps or other loot in the game. And especially Elder influence is very juicy because they can have these null portals that spawns all over your map, which is basically a unique enemy. And unique enemies drop shit tons of loot. I mean, I got so many when I doing my sextants. I got so many six links from that, you know. So it puts extra mobs on the map for completely free, and it's not a little, it's by quite a lot. So if you're not already doing this, I highly recommend you start now, because I started very late with this, and I had to go through like 10 different guides and some written ones, and there were no really good ones on how to do it step by step. So hopefully this will explain it all to you, and we're gonna start it now. So we're gonna start with step number 1. We're gonna take a look at our map, and because cells is down here, we want the elder to spawn somewhere in this area, yeah? So I'm gonna do laboratory map here. I'm gonna run it and until the elder blob actually appears. I'm gonna show you when that happens, and we're gonna discuss it from there then. Because I'm running tier 8, some people pointed out on some areas or some forums that it has a chance of spawning on other tier 8s. So if we write in tier 8 here, I'm gonna need to do some more research on this area because, well, it will happen now. The research will happen now because I will be running this one. If it happens here, it might be a fluke that it happened there. So it's, but it has very low odds of that happening by itself, because when I was running Desert Springs, it happened a lot. Like it always spawned in that area. So I don't know, maybe it's easier to spawn it in a specific area here than in somewhere else. We'll see. So welcome back. I've just spawned, actually I've respawned it again because it had laboratory, but then it was in between two of the maps. So I ran laboratory and then I realized, well, wait, I actually need to run the shaper blobs to make it spawn. But anyway, if this happens, if you can see here in the corner, if your map is in between now two of these, and there's no way of no way out for them, which means it's cornered. So here, laboratory and haunted mansion was both with elder influence. That means that cells cannot have shaper on it because you cannot corner shaper like that. So what I did was open up one path, and now we need to run these shaper ones around, and hopefully it will transfer. When we kill one, it transferred to the other one. So it transferred to this area, and we're praying for it to transfer to cells because then we don't need to do anything else. We're already done then. But we might need to do some adjustments that normally we're not always lucky. This is all random. So we'll get back to you then. So welcome back. I did two of the shaper blobs out here, and this happened. As you can see here, cells got consumed with um, elder, which is completely fine. We either wanted it elder or shaper. The only thing we want to happen now is exactly what happened now. So we're already basically set up, I hope. Which means now, because of shaper is right here, and you can see this line is tagged to it. There's only one line from this end. So when I'm running cells, that means I'm killing the elder influence here. Then shaper is gonna look, oh, neat, a map that I can take over. Then it's gonna go in here. Now, when I kill shaper in here, this map is gonna think, ooh, a map I can take over. And then it's gonna go back and forth between these three maps. So I'm just gonna run cells infinitely, and hopefully this one will stay the same. There's one thing more that I need to talk to you about. We're gonna do that in next step, is maintaining your shaper blob or shaper square or ping pong effect, whatever you wanna call it. So we're back here, and we are gonna talk about maintaining this, because when you run cells here, so this will happen automatically. It will go back and forth with elder and shaper influence. So every second map, so first it will be elder, then will be shaper, then will be elder, and it will continue like this. And that's why it's called the ping pong effect, because it's going back and forth. Now for the next thing is that when you're running this whole section will start to grow. It will start to grow in different directions and stuff like that. So as you can already see here, these maps were not affected. I did not run these two, but yet when I ran these over here, or when I'm gonna run cells in the future, then it's gonna start dragging into these maps. It has a chance of doing so, or it has a chance to sometimes shaper consumes an elder, sometimes elder consumes a shaper, sometimes nothing happens. It's all random. It can only goes to the next one, so it cannot like all of a sudden jump over here. But it can take up multiple maps at once, and so on. It can also, so what we need to look out for here, first of all, is that we keep this under 20 maps. So what I'm meaning by this, as soon as we hit 20 maps, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right now we have 7, which is elder influence. When we have 20 elder influence maps, this whole thing will be ruined. Why is that? Well, then Elder's Guardians is gonna spawn, and Elder itself after you have killed the Guardians. We don't want that to happen. Because if that happens, anytime you run a map, that one will be consumed. It will not have any influence on it anymore. So we want to trim it. We want to maintain it. So as soon as it starts to grow too big, you might want to count them, and you might want to maintain it. So let's say it's growing all over this area. So it has all of these maps. And you're thinking, oh, it's getting quite big. So all you need to do is run one of the maps somewhere in between. So let's say everything here in this area is an elder blob also, with together with this. So if I run for example, these two maps then, that will cut off this whole part. That means all of those maps will run. So let's say it ran all the way up here and this whole area is cut. If I run this one map, everything here will be cut off. That means it will all go back to either shaper or normal influence, which is non-influence. So you do not need to cut the corners like here and here. You can just cut something that is connected to it. So if you cut the connection with the main blob, then it's over. Something to look out for is very important. You need to count the maps. If it's obvious that you have more maps on the bottom area than the top area, then you can cut it off directly. But if it's equal or close to equal, you need to count them, because the cutting off, let's say I'm running the elder influence has gone all the way up here, and this area is bigger than this one. Then if I cut this one off here, then it will keep this blob and destroy this one. So you might want to be careful which one you do. It normally is not a problem, because you will see, like, by just eyesight, okay, this one is pretty big. I can just cut it off here and that destroys everything here. And just keep it under 20, and also make sure you do not cut off a piece that is bigger than the piece you want to maintain. Second is if it starts to eat into your territory here and you run this, let's say this is your last elder influence. Let's say it's cut all the way in here with a shaper influence. This is why I want a little bit of a area here already influenced, because if you run this, still if you have shaper around it, this will be destroying the elder for good. That means you need to start over from step number 1 and spawning it again. So you might want to have a little bit of buffer. So if you get all the way in here, you want to make sure you run one of these side maps so elder can take over a shaper area. I normally have a little bit of buffer, 1 or 2 maps behind it. So if it gets too close, I run one of those maps. I did this on some of these other maps when I've been running, and I needed to maintain it. In 100 maps, I maintained it twice. So in 100 maps, twice I needed to maintain my map. It's not much. It takes a few seconds because you just rush the boss, kill it, and then it's done. And hopefully RNG will be in your favor for the rest of the 50 maps or 100 maps, whatever you have left, and push it in the right direction again. Normally it goes back and forth, fluctuating, so you don't need to maintain it very often. So I'm gonna give you some final tips and tricks to this, and we'll end it after that. So some final tips and tricks here is that it might not happen as easily as I just made it happen. Let's say you're running this laboratory and the laboratory and the influence doesn't land exactly here, and actually I ran these maps to make that happen. But if it does not happen directly, you might need to morph these other ones. So let's say this didn't happen and it only landed over here, then you might need to drag some stuff over there. So what I would do is I would take out maze. That means the shaper takes over. Then I would kill off academy. That means the shaper will go to academy and maze, and then go drag it. Then I would continue dragging it to underground river, and then I will see if this one get taken over. If not, then I would actually run laboratory and elder would take that over. And because I have shaper here now, I can then run laboratory again, which means that the elder influence here will be gone and shaper will move in. Perfect, yeah? Because then we have just dragged our shaper influence into the right position. And then you just can fill in the blobs here if you want to, or you can continue doing it because you still have all these free maps in the bottom. You might need to do this. A second thing that you might want to do is if you have not a clear atlas. Let's say you have a elder blob somewhere, you can drag it all the way where you want it. So let's say I wanted to drag it all the way up to, where is it? Underground Sea, which is very popular. I would just start to run this strand, and then I would probably uh, drag it even further because this shaper would probably go there. Then I would run this one, and as I see here, there will be a line of elder influence lurking its way up here. But remember, we cannot reach more than 20. So when I reach about 19 or lower, I would probably go lower. Then I would start cutting off areas. I would start cutting off this. That means that this disappear. And then I will start cutting off this area, maybe from here. That means that everything here disappears. And I will slowly drag it up here and cutting off piece by piece. Make sure the piece you're cutting off is smaller than the one you want to keep. So you just drag it up here and finally you have it in the new area. And again, you need the main map to either be Shaper or Elder, and the one next to it to be Shaper or Elder. So like this. This works fine. If there was no Shaper here, it would not work. Same thing if here, if I had this as Shaper, as long as this is Elder and is connected, we're good to go. So, if you have any questions about this or something was unclear, please state so in the comments and I will try to explain it or even put in a notation in my video. Thank you for watching.